All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our second UPLEVEL webinar of this year. We're really excited to host this event today with some truly talented Executive Briefing Center professionals. Today, we're going to be discussing how industry-leading programs are adding value through new and different briefing engagement types. We'll be hearing from strategic organizations on how their programs are operating, overcoming any challenges, and discussing what added benefits they see in return. Before we begin this portion of the event, I wanted to introduce our special co-host and Nexus partner and our lineup of guest speakers. So we have Ellen Barnes-Fiffner. She'll be helping us host this event. Thank you so much for taking the time to help us today. She comes from a top-notch consulting program called EBP Consulting. Ellen, thank you so much for being here. If you could please say hello and let our audience know what your company is doing in the EBC space, we would love to hear.
Ellie, thank you. What a privilege it is to be here today. You know, I started my briefing career on your side of the desk in that I was managing the Verizon 12 Center program. And when I left Verizon, I realized my passion really is briefing programs. And so I've had the opportunity for the last 15 plus years to be a consultant to many of you who are here on the call today. I get to work with you globally. You know, I've been a member of the ABPM for over 20 years. I've written over 30 articles on briefing programs. But today, I'm really excited to be here because, you know, for the last 2+ years, this community of people have gone ahead and found out how to do hybrids, how to do virtuals. Now we're going back in person. And the next natural thing is what the panel has to share today. What's next? What are the future kinds of engagements we could do? So Allie, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I would like to introduce our lineup of panelists. We have our first panelist, Junko Nakata. She's the Customer Experience Coordinator at Roche Diagnostics. Hi, Junko. If you wouldn't mind, please introducing yourself and providing us a little information about your company and your program.
Sure. So my name is Junko, and I've been with the Roche Briefing Program for 5 years now. If you're not familiar with Roche, Roche is a global healthcare organization, and we have two different divisions. One is pharmaceuticals and one is diagnostics. And we are the #1 biotech company in the world. So I run the briefing program for the Roche Diagnostics North America headquarters here in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is a mature briefing program. I want to say it's over 30 years old. And Ellen, you've probably worked with some of our other coworkers. But while it's a mature program, we're always innovating and trying new things here in the center. So my team is the customer engagement team here at Roche, and we are part of what's called the BASE organization. So BASE stands for Business Analytics and Strategic Effectiveness. And what we do is we are the organizations that support all of the Roche different business areas, but our main focus is on sales acceleration programs for our sales team and marketing support and leadership events. So I'm super honored to be part of this panel today, and I cannot wait to talk to you more about some of our new programs, new engagement types, and some of the lessons that we've learned.
Awesome. Thank you very much for providing that information. All right, next we have Jason Volk. He is the Technical Operations Manager at Verizon. If you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself and provide us some information about your company and your program.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be here. Thanks for the invite. It is Jason Volk. I am a Technical Operations Manager for Verizon. I'm under the Executive Briefing Program. I've been with Verizon. I started as a contractor about 12 years ago, and I've had a whole bunch of different technical roles, throughout my time here. Now managing the Basking Ridge EDC here, as well as providing technical operations support for the greater program. Our program falls under VBG, which is Verizon Business Group. So it's basically all the enterprise and B2B customers. And we fall under marketing under that organization. So we do, we see, Fortune 1,000 companies, the public sector, from federal to state and local, education customers, and we support a whole bunch of different, locations around the world. So I'm a true advocate for technology. So it's always an exciting, time, in this role of getting to see all the cool, features and technology that's coming out, and I get to play with them, and then also talk to customers and geek out, with them as well. So excited to be here, and look forward to sharing some things that we're doing.
Great, thank you for sharing. All right, last but not least, we have Kevin Crawford. He's a senior manager, virtual briefer at Avaya. Kevin, we'd love to hear from you. Please introduce yourself and provide us some information about your program.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Kevin Crawford, and I work for Avaya in our West Coast operations for our executive briefing program. And I've had various roles in the program of being a manager at sites and also being a presenter, as well as working at some of our other sites in our Denver location, and also working in our New Jersey location at one time when we had it there. Avaya is a Fortune 500 company, and what we offer is cloud communications for businesses, small and large, and the ability for them to be able to use software that we offer to run their businesses, to be able to do communications in real time, non-real time, conferencing, collaboration. We actually offer a product very similar to the conference that we're on now called Avaya Spaces. And we've actually been able to use that application in our executive briefing program to deliver our presentations and our demonstrations to customers over the last two and a half years since the pandemic started. And we found that it was a very strategic tool for us to have in our product and portfolio, because what we were able to do was show customers how to virtualize their businesses and be able to send employees home and agents at home. We have a very strong play in call center technology, and to be able to allow those agents to be very productive while the pandemic was going on. So our program is located in New York City, as well as Capital Region, Fairfax, Virginia. And those are our flagships locations where you can have in-center events. And then we'll talk a little bit more about hybrid and my role as a virtual briefer. I'm pretty unique. I actually can travel to a customer location or to travel to a neutral location, and to be able to bring the executive briefing experience to that site as a part of what I do in my role. So we'll touch on how that is innovative and how that does allow our customers to be able to consume our products, as well as to be able to see some of the features of the product as well.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you guys all introducing yourselves. We're really excited to start the webinar portion of this event, and to hear about how your programs are thriving through these new engagements. Before we begin, I did want to mention that we will be utilizing the chat feature here on Zoom. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A portion on the bottom right-hand corner, and we will be sure to answer any questions that we receive. So for now, that's all from me. I'm going to pass over the mic to Ellen so she can start the panelist questions. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start off by asking you each a question. It'll be the same question. And the question is, what new or unique engagement or briefing type is your program leveraging? And what are the challenges? And Junko, could we start with you at Roche?
Let me get myself off of mute. That's one of my challenges, is keeping up with am I on mute or not? So here at Roche, we have several different engagement types. We had been using, since our new center behind me opened in 2017, 3 things happened. One, I joined the organization because with the new center, we anticipated an uptick in our number of briefings. We also started using the Briefing Edge platform to do our program scheduling and management. So I say that because as we've added new engagement types, we brought them on board to that platform, because one of our challenges was we didn't have a calendar that had all of our events in one place. we didn't have a unified request process, right? We had different request forms. You had to go to different places. Now we just have everybody go through salesforce.com, goes into Briefing Edge. We get the who, what, where, when, why. They have to learn one process instead of several different steps. So we've overcome several challenges by using Briefing Edge as our single source of truth. It's where we collect all the data. It's where we have all the engagement types. It's where we go for our answers. What does the day look like? Who are our resources? Are they available? So I've kind of veered off to what were some of the challenges that we were facing and how we answered them. So just to summarize what our engagement types are, the 360 program, which is what our briefing program is called, is the traditional briefing. And that's been around for a long time. But we also have peer exchange, where we use some of our centers of excellence, our customer sites, as briefing centers. We have customer to customer conversations. And for a lot of our customers, that is the most valuable piece, right? Getting that customer testimonial instead of having Roche give us their story. So that is one of our engagement types. We also have the Roche on the Road program, which is a mobile briefing center. We can take, there it is. We have a fleet of trucks where we can take our instruments and have our people do a presentation where our customers are.
Junko, I believe you're muted.
How
There
did
we
that
go.
happen?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
Junko, yes.
So one of our strategies when the pandemic hit was, let's meet our customers where they are, whether it's virtually, live, whether they can travel. If they can't, we'll travel to them. So Roche on the Road is a way to get in front our instruments, our people in front of the customers on their sites. The other type of events that we have are what we call city events, which is we'll set up a whole executive briefing program in a targeted city, and we will bring our instruments, our discussion leaders, our leadership to them. So accounts in a targeted area have that opportunity to have a briefing. And then the last two events that I want to talk about are, well, that city event is new since pandemic. We knew that there were targeted areas that we needed to kind of hit. And then the other new program type is called the product experience. We were noticing that there were certain trends in what customers were interested in. And instead of doing lots of single presentations for one customer, why not do one presentation for lots of customers? So very much like a webinar format. And that was meant to fill that gap of early funnel stage, right? Let's give them educational programming to give them the high level overview of products or of topics, and allowing our sales team the contact points and follow-up opportunities, right? To decide what is the next step. Is it a Roche on the Road event? Is it a 360? Is it a peer exchange? So we were able to come up with a strategy of not only find out where the customers are in terms of what type of engagements do they want, but where are they in the funnel stage? So we can provide them with program types that fit all of those two criteria. I hope that makes sense to you all.
Junko, you got us all starting and thinking in all different ways with the variety of engagements that you're doing. And again, a reminder, anyone who would like to ask a specific question, we can come back to Junko or any of our other panelists, but do use the chat so we can capture your question. So the same question.
Can I have one more minute? I just thought of
Sure.
something.
Please.
What we've been able to find is, I warned y'all, what we've been able to find is that in our engagement types, let's say a 360 briefing program, we're now doing within that a peer exchange, or we are now doing within that another program. One of the programs in development is, let's call them a metaverse experience, the use of virtual reality, augmented reality goggles, right, to get away from PowerPoint, to give customers experiences, memorable experiences, new technologies, kind of ways to see things differently. So there are new product or engagement types emerging to fill some of those needs for scheduling the tools, making sure that we have those resources and the people needed within our, let's call it Briefing Edge platform, so we don't overbook. We know who's available, who's where, who's not available, what rooms are available, you know, what resources are bookable. I'm done.
Okay, no, and we got more questions for you, Junko. So you're not quite done yet, but I love the way that you're talking about how automation has freed you from some of the challenges that you're having as you rolled out all these different kinds of engagements. Now, Jason, we want to hear what's going on at Verizon. What unique or different kinds of engagements and briefings are you doing now?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So today I wanted to share a little bit behind the scenes, like operationally, what we're doing from a briefing program level. You know, we have so many different locations that we're managing, and to Junko's points about all different customer engagement types and different locations and room management. It was really difficult, you know, managing from a room level perspective of the different locations. Like we support briefings at our primary briefing centers that the briefing program owns, to innovation centers, which is actually owned by a different team under Verizon. And then we have labs, and we also support, you know, offsite locations at customers' fields, or some of our offices throughout, you know, the US and, you know, across the globe. So when you're coming to a briefing program owned center, like, okay, we own the calendar. It's simple. We know when it's used and when it's not used. However, when we're at these other shared locations, they may use a different, you know, tool to manage the calendar there. So right before COVID hit, I guess we could take credit for, you know, creating the new engagement system inside of Briefing Edge. We went to them and said, hey, we want to have different programs using a single calendaring system, and we moved the innovation centers over to this system. So when a briefing does come in, you can pick what you want to do from a program level. Like I want to have an EBC, or I want to have an innovation center session. And then, you know, it gets routed properly to the right team. So at the end of the day, you know, the registration process is, you know, using the right room, and we're all booking everything, you know, accordingly, because, you know, the innovation centers in the labs, they're completely different teams, like I said. So they're doing a lot of innovative stuff with partners, entrepreneurs, you know, still customer engagements, but not necessarily counting as what we call briefing credit. Like it's not you know, an EBC. However, we still have to want to support them from a program level and from a room management system. So it was a whole lot of challenges, you know, which were really solved, you know, unifying the platform and kind of, you know, coming to one system and one, you know, management, you know, platform. Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of different teams, you know, utilizing this now, from, you know, sales to network teams to product teams to, you know, being able to just very easily, you know, manage and register these visits. So I just wanted to share, you know, from a program, a little bit more behind the scenes, just, you know, what Verizon's doing for that. And I have more to share, you know, later in the webinar as well.
Jason, we're not going to let you get away too fast. You're promising us behind the scenes. We want to hear, with working cross-functionally across so many different organizations, and probably with informal power, not direct management mandate, what are some of the challenges that you can share with us?
So, I mean, it all comes down to, like I said, registering them, but having, buy-in, like, because it is, not, it's different management levels at the end of the day. So just having that peer relationship of, we know what each side of the table is doing, and we are supportive of each other. Because at times, you want to do something, it's hard to get it buy-in if different teams are not responsible for, what you're trying to do, but it's a well-oiled machine, I want to say.
And I love the way that it's really customer centric. It's really focused on getting the right experience to the customer. So we will come back to you. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
Kevin and Avaya, again, what are you doing differently? What kind of new and unique engagements are you having in the challenges?
Great, Ellen. Thanks. We are always willing to meet the customer where it's necessary. And one of the different tools that we have is the ability to meet the customer in a in-center environment. And we can also meet them at our labs. And so very similar to what the other panelists have, we have the ability to have deep dive sessions with laboratory and developers. And then my particular role is bringing the remote EBC to the customer site and bringing a lot of technology with me. So we mentioned virtual reality, augmented reality, and we also like to highlight quite a bit of our artificial intelligence when we put our demonstrations and our presentations in front of customers at either our New York City or our Capital Region locations, which handles a lot of our financial customers out of the New York City market, and then the government market is handled out of our Fairfax location. And we also have a labs in Denver that I've worked there for 15 years, and that's where a lot of the patent owners who own the patents to our technology. And customers, a lot of times, they want to talk to those people directly and to be able to interface with them directly, so we arrange that. And then most recently, I had an event where a group flew in from the Philippines, and I met them at their hotel, and we actually set up the briefing at their hotel room in a boardroom at the hotel. So they literally just walked to the elevator and came out of the elevator and went right into the boardroom where we had all of our technology and capabilities there. And then if there is an ability for us to have customers on site, while I could be in a briefing center with the executives, and we can videotape the executives and bring them in as well, or have them come in via live video, all of those are now tools that we bring to the table. Now, we're on a Zoom conference today, and I mentioned that Avaya has an application called Avaya Spaces. And so if you want to show that for me, Alessandra, what this application did for us was it allowed us to move into a new space called Workstream Collaboration, and to be able to do it from anywhere using the device of choice. Now, you'll notice at the bottom right, there is a video view of our technology, and we can actually have over 60% participants in a video conference. And this allowed us to have a global approach to the way that we did briefings. And if you've ever been in a conference and you hear the dog barking in the background, or the lawnmower going by in the background, and the baby crying in the background, those are all disruptive technologies that kind of disrupt the flow of the briefing. And so we infuse artificial intelligence with noise removal. And what we have is just the speaker's noise is all you're going to hear. And the demonstrations that we're doing, we don't hear any of the background noises that are typically in someone's home or in background noisy environments. So we bring that sort of artificial intelligence with immersiveness as well. So we can have avatar presentations and demonstrations using these tools. And then we can also deliver this presentation to a mobile user. So just like you have on your mobile phone, you could actually have this video conference on your 5G connection. And providers like Verizon are providing that sort of bandwidth and capability. And what we have been able to leverage is Avaya Spaces can now be integrated with Teams, and can be integrated with Google, and can be integrated with any of their artificial intelligence technologies. Now, what's unique and innovative about this technology is Avaya Spaces was introduced to the marketplace right before COVID, which means that it actually didn't exist, a couple of years before COVID. And it went from being non-existent to being in the Magic Quadrant for Gartner. And that shows how much leverage that we have for the application to be used by all of Avaya's millions of customers and millions of users of customers. And so what we were able to start to see was this ability to not only virtualize the worker, but virtualize the call center agent as well. And we were able to demonstrate that Spaces would allow you to have something like a video conference, and the ability to be able to have an agent that you can see from your mobile phone, for example. And some of the things that I'll touch on a little bit later about how we know it works. We had a customer that actually deployed a video conferencing technology using Spaces. So our program is using this technology and selling it to our customers at the same time. And we want to encourage multimedia presentations and the ability to support any kind of device for our EBC experiences.
Kevin, thank you. All three of you have talked about how you're using automation to free yourselves to do more for customers and more for our internal clients, and working in different ways. So if you have any questions, do remember to put them in chat. Allie's going to be asking them. But Allie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to hear from you guys and all your different programs and the different engagements you're doing. I wanted to kind of open it up to the audience and kind of ask them if you guys were doing any type of engagements like this. So I was going to stick up a poll on here just to get some responses from our audience. So let me go ahead and do that. We'll leave it up for about a minute. You guys can respond, and then I'll display the answers so you can see if other companies and programs are doing the same. So I'm not sure why this is on here twice, but I'm just going to launch it. You guys can see it. Just go ahead and fill out the question, the top one, please. But does your program offer any special non-traditional briefing engagement types, maybe similar to the ones that have been discussed here, or it could be something different? We'd love to hear from you. Leave it up for another 15, 20 seconds. We're getting some responses here.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of history with Verizon and the ABPM and our program as well. Our new leader came from the Verizon EBC program and leadership. So Kim Howland is moving us in that direction so that we can be able to see some of the cool stuff that she can bring to our program.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I know Kim from a long time ago. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she's been with Avaya for just a couple of years, and is now taking the leadership on our entire EBC program.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to end this poll here. We did get some responses, so I'll go ahead and end this, and I will share the results so you guys can see them all. Is everyone able to see them? Okay. So we have about 60% are performing some sort of non-traditional or a special engagement type, and about 40% are not. See that there. Okay.
So as we've heard an overview of all the different types of innovations and creativity you're using to meet customers where they're at, whether we're working one-to-one with customers, one-to-many, where we're doing cross-functional work, we're leaning on automation to free us to be able to do more efficiently and more effective types of engagements. Let's kind of change our focus slightly and really kind of ask ourselves, and Junko, we're going to start with you again, really ask ourselves, trying to change our track here a little bit, but what is the value that you're adding to your briefing program through these different kinds of engagements? And how do you know that there's value?
So we know there's value because we go to our single source of truth, which for us is Briefing Edge. So because we have all of the programs on that platform, we're able to get some real results, some real measurements of how are we doing? How often are we doing it? Who are we engaging? We're able to get so many metrics and data points to show the value of our team and our programs. Kind of, for example, when we were looking at our top 10 account must wins, we were able to see that 100% of the wins had used the Roche on the Road program. 70% of the wins had used our 360 briefing program. All of them had used 1 to 2, even 3 of those touch points. So we could show the value of how our contributions, touched each of those wins. But I also think as a result, we were able to justify our asks for headcount. We were able to increase our fleet on Roche and the Road because we had the measurements and we had the backup materials we had needed in the form of data to provide the facts and figures.
Junko, you've gone off. You're on mute again.
How do I keep doing
There's
that?
just demons in cyberspace. We've got you.
Yeah, I have my hands under the desk, but anyhow, thank you for letting me know. I really think that there are things that you need to do to be able to get measurable results, whether that's through a program like Briefing Edge, whether it's through campaigns where your responses give you a pulse or some sort of measurement, whether it's a poll, a survey. Take that feedback, use that data, keep collecting it. It's one thing to collect it, but if you don't do anything with it, why?
Junko, listening to you reminds me of a session that AT&T did at a spring conference at ABPM. And the title of it was, "In God We Trust, the Rest of You Bring Numbers." And that sounds like what you're doing at Roche.
We are very data driven.
And then leadership can make those decisions. And, we know that if we have executive support, we have a much stronger program. The rest, just without it, we tend to just kind of struggle. Jason?
Absolutely. Sorry to step on you there, Ellen, but it is really important that we have advocates for our program and that our program has become, we're trusted partners for so much of Roche.
And it models, one of the best in class characteristics is that we want to have that trust and we want to have that engagement with our executives. Jason, we've heard a lot about what's going on at Verizon, but I said we wanted to hear even more. So I'm going to ask you to share with the group about Cityscape. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share. So if we can show that slide, we created basically a story to tell about Verizon because, like many on this call, the portfolio that you're trying to show to customers, it's just massive. It's insane. At the end of the day, when a customer comes to the DBC, you want them walking out like, oh, I didn't know, this company did that. And it's very hard to, have so much knowledge and so many different stories, jammed into a customer, in a very short time frame. So Verizon put together, and I'm sure other programs have very similar storytelling, but this is an example of what we did. We put together, it's called a cityscape. So it's basically starts at a 10,000-foot view of the city. Like, hey, what happens when a 5G or a city goes 5G ultra? When Verizon comes in, and you can tell a high-level story of broadband and fiber optics going into the city to lighting up small cells all around the city, which is okay, cool. But then you can double click into an industry specific thing, like the intelligent venue here. Okay, 5G is coming to a stadium. What does that mean for the stadium? What does that mean for the fan experience? What does that mean for the venue operators? And then you can go one step further into actual use cases of, okay, what am I literally, how is this powering, or how is this benefiting me at the end of the day? Like, there's a couple examples. One of my favorites is accelerated access, where you can basically bypass the security line, where it just scans your face, says, hey, Jason has a season pass. It's an opt-in experience. You can bypass the lines and go right into the venue. And then we can actually do a live demo depending on where we are with this cityscape. If we have it, if you come to Basking Ridge, hey, I can tell you the story, and then literally demonstrate the product and pair it very closely with the story that we're telling. So it's a really this is a docent-led experience, though. It's not, we're not enabling this for all of sales to get access to this and just say, hey, have at it, go have fun and go through it. But you can be trained up on it, kind of learn a lot about it, or learn one specific pathway of that that story to demonstrate it appropriately and know what you're talking about and all the key points. So right now it's on a touch screen, but we also have it, you can actually stream it to a tablet. So I took it to a hockey game a few months back, and I was able to show it live to some customers up in a suite at a technology show. So it's really exciting seeing this. It's way better than just PowerPointing someone to death or just going right into a demo. It's I see Kevin shaking his head. You're the one that kind of wanted me to show this, because last week we were talking about storytelling, and like, yeah, it's all around that bigger impact and how you can tell your story to the customers at the end of the day. So it's a really great tool, and I'm learning more and more about it. I'm becoming more of a pro of going through the cityscape and geeking out with the different customers.
Jason, thank you. It's exciting to hear, and we've talked about it for years, the importance of storytelling, because of that stickiness factor. When they leave, it's so much more memorable. We're going to go ahead now, thank you, and shift to Kevin at Avaya. Kevin, I want to go back and ask you, you have these unique briefing types. You've put a lot of effort in them. You're dedicated to them now. So what is the value that's being added, and how do you know?
Thanks, Ellen. When we start to measure your effectiveness as a program inside the company, the ultimate measure is revenue, and did the company make profits, and were you a part of that, and did you help out with that? And so I mentioned, Junko mentioned integration with Salesforce. So we are always tracking our events and making sure that if the event does move from a proposal stage to a closing stage, that we can take credit for that. And so we have a dashboard that we try to keep up with each briefing event and whether or not if it won, lost, or what stage it might be in. And that allows us to see our effectiveness across all of our sites. We do use the Briefing Edge tool to do scheduling and making sure that we can have a common calendar and a common way to build our briefing experiences, so that we can do it from before the time the customer arrives, during the time that they're in the briefing center, and or in the post event, where we can do surveys and try to understand a little bit of the effectiveness. Is the sale going to happen? Is the customer happy that they came? Did they get everything that they wanted? All of those are cool things. Now, when you look at one of our ways to prove, if our applications and our solutions are working, the slide that I'll want to highlight here is an example of one of our customers who took this Spaces application, and obviously during the pandemic, nobody wanted to travel, no one wanted to touch each other, and so this Indian government needed to be able to do diagnostics or at least consultative communications with patients. And so they used the Avaya Spaces applications and created this web link in 7 days. And when you know that you can be able to deploy a piece of technology that is disruptive, but also is very easy to use, they were able to be able to have video chats, file sharing, all of those sort of cool things that you would want to do with the patient while not ever touching the patient or ever having the patient come into the facility. And then we try to compose things. Everybody wants to integrate, but one of the things you have to do is you have to start from where you are in order to get the business to go where you want it to go. So in our EBCs, we try to compose experiences that matter. And what we do is we build a demonstration that is specific for them, specific in their industry. And if they can see that it can come alive, then we can actually say that it can be deployed fairly quickly. So this is an example of our New York location that you see on the left here. You can see floor to ceiling display screens. Those are touch screens. And we actually can allow customers to come in and touch their particular use case, vertical or application, and to be able to kind of do the minority report thing where you can move it around and put it into sales. And our presentation specialist at that location, Carolyn, she does bring the experience alive for the customer at that point in time. And so this is an example where our Spaces application was used by a customer in India, and they were able to create value for them. We use that same application inside of our EBCs to show that value and then to track the EBC events using Salesforce for the revenue effectiveness and whether or not if we're going to be, if we're doing the right thing or do we need to change.
So again, you have numbers. Ellie, I understand we have a question. Could you unmute, please?
No, we don't have a question.
Okay.
No question, not yet.
Well, there's been so much shared and you've been very thorough in what you're sharing. And we're seeing the continuing theme that we have data to make decisions. We have data to take to executives to show impact. We're getting business cases approved. So I want to applaud all of you because that isn't always the easiest thing to do. And I've seen new programs that have started up and their management's kind of waiting. Do they really need automation? I think anyone who has a new program, I'm going to encourage them to contact each of you or all of you and talk about the value that having tools that can really capture data and show your value and how it's really lifting the whole program that you have.
Hey, Ellen.
Yes.
I just wanted to echo exactly what Kevin and Junko said about reporting. We do an insane amount of analytics and measurement on our briefing program. We have data coming in from Briefing Edge. It goes out to our sales teams once a week. There's a live dashboard of where we are in our briefing program at any point in time. It's heavily stared at number. Our sales teams have KPIs. Everyone is very much involved, and our executive leadership knows the value of the program, and it's really key. Like all three of us said, measurement. It's really true. It really will up level your program to have that data in front of you and people looking at this.
So we actually do have a question. Someone wants to know if any of you have any centers being represented that have immersive experience rooms or theaters. Kevin, do you want to maybe touch on that?
Yeah. One of the themes over the last few years is how do you get customers to participate instead of just sitting there and absorbing information? And we want them to participate, ask questions, and we take that information and we feed it back into our product management. We have a global vice president, Karen Hardy, out of the Silicon Valley area. She was recently recognized as one of the leaders of communications in the Silicon Valley area. But what we do is we take all of that data and we put it back into our briefing 360-degree rotation so that when customers do want to have an immersive environment, we take their phone, for example, and we use it in the demo. We take their email address and we allow them to be able to get a link so that they can potentially go to a virtual connection and the ability to be able to interact with something like artificial intelligence. We want to give them things that they can actually leave the briefing with, and then they can go back to their offices and say, hey, look, see what I did. Here's the demo I did. And I was able to get the link directly and live, and it actually worked on my particular phone. So it wasn't a canned demo that anybody could have done. Now, we also want customers to make sure that they can, it used to be that you wanted to hear who you were talking to. Now everybody wants to see who you're talking to. And so video conferences like this used to be, things that you would avoid. I'd see people with tape over the camera on their PCs, and I was thinking, oh, that's really high tech. Now what we're seeing is people are taking the tape off. Their mobile phones have cameras, the ability to do biometric authentication. So one of the demonstrations that we actually do is biometrically authenticating someone via facial as well as audio. And in our business for call centers, people doing fraud and trying to misrepresent someone, we have to protect for that. And so we bring in solution partners that allow us to do identity management platforms, and that can be shown to a customer and they go, wow, that actually brought up my particular, account and, in whatever demo that we do. And they go, wow, that was really immersive. And that's something that I want my leadership to know that we can do inside of our business. So our New York location has that touchscreen approach. I mentioned our leadership with Kim Howe. She's our Vice President of Marketing. We're going to now look at how do we expand all of those things we've done for the last couple of years. And virtual reality, augmented reality, Junko, you mentioned, that's a big thing going forward. These mobile phones are going to be the new way that we authenticate ourselves, and that we can immerse ourselves in what sort of use cases and experiences that we see out there. And then one of the things that we have as a tagline is experiences that matter. And so we want them to leave our briefing center to know that the experience they just had, it matters to their business. And if they can deploy those sort of technologies, I mentioned the Philippine group, they were coming to the briefing right before COVID started. And they had to wait 2 years in order for them to come to a live session with us. And so while we were in the session, they kept stopping us midway going, stop, we want to buy it. We needed that 2 years ago while COVID was going on, and so forth. So that's when customers are happy. Trying to get their feedback right away is also something that we try to capture. And ultimately, not just giving them a pen and a pad to leave with, but to give them an experience that they can be able to talk to other people about and say, that was cool. And that's where we need to be in the future of our business.
And thank you. And you just said something very key, and that's future. So as we end the time we have today, I want to come back and ask one more question of each of you. And Kevin, we're going to start with you. You're on a roll, so we're going to keep it going. And that is, I'd like you to finish the sentence. My vision for my program 2 years from now is?
It is that we will continue to make a difference. And by making a difference, you have to embrace the technologies that are disruptive at that given point in time. I don't have a crystal ball to tell you where it's going to be 2 years from now, but I can tell you that humans buy from humans. And what we need to do is make sure that we're putting technology in front of other humans to say that this is something that Avaya has expertise in, and that I will have a very happy decision by making that with Avaya. And so our vision is virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence will be everywhere. You'll actually be able to come into a conference like this and say commands like join this bridge, or to record this conference. And just like we do with Alexa and Siri today, those are consumer driven environments. We're going to see that same thing in the business world. And you come into a room and it will biometrically know you are the person that reserved the room, and the ability for this lighting to come on and the audio to come on just like you like it, and the ability for you to manage all of that from your mobile phone. And when you leave, that the room will go back into a mode of preparing for the next type of resource coming in. And so this notion of WeWork locations and all of these new ways that we're seeing people work now, people don't want to go back into the office. And so we got to meet them at the virtual world. And that virtual world is whatever network that they can connect to. I only know a few: GSM, Wi-Fi, and Ethernet. And if you got a network that's above that, let us know, and we'll be happy to connect to it so that we can bring our experiences in the next generation of executive briefing professionals and programs.
Well, Kevin, thank you. You've given us a lot to think about. Jason, your seat's a little different than the rest of ours. You're behind the scenes. Can you tell us from your perspective, my vision for my program 2 years from now is?
Maybe like we remain flexible, like our customer programs remain flexible. You know, when the whole world went virtual, now we're in a hybrid state of mind. Hybrid is not going away. Like piggybacking off of what Kevin's saying about like locations, where are we going to show up? You know, if it's not illness, it's fuel costs, or who knows like what's going to happen in the future. You know, I mean, people, they don't have the willingness to travel as they did, you know, pre-COVID, honestly. They need to be really sold on, is it worth my time to actually get on a plane and go visit the customer? Some things I could have shared earlier with that we're trialing right now. It's maybe piggybacking off of an event or a trade show that customers are already going to, like NRF, or you know, the various trade shows around the world. If we know customers are going to them, hey, let's have a mini EBC. See if we can take them away for an hour or however long to you know, since they're already there, take them away, have a little mini EBC, and try to just up level that experience. Yeah, just all the various different, you know, events that we support, just trying to, you know, bolt on a briefing to whatever. And we're actually currently working on, you know, a way to implement that. But yeah, just traveling and taking advantage of, you know, being where we are today and where you want to go tomorrow.
Tracy, you raised such a good point that where we think we've been very, very creative the last couple of years, maybe what's coming is even more work and more creativity and more keeping our eye on the customer and using tools that can help us go ahead and enhance that experience for the customer. Thank you. And I appreciate the perspective from where you sit.
Thank you.
Junko, can we ask you the same question? My vision for my program 2 years from now is, and you're muted.
Consistency. So my vision for my program 2 years from now is definitely in the works. You know, at ABPM, they're always talking about how do you create that world-class briefing center? And so that's always kind of been my mission. How do we have those world-class characteristics? So a couple things come to mind. We always need to be innovating. We need to be challenging. We need to challenge our business partners. You know, Briefing Edge is probably sick of me always asking, can we do this? Is this possible? How do we? Because I just keep wanting to stretch what we can do with that platform. It's brought us so much information. So if I look back 2 years, I can see that the growth of our programs has been kind of, I think the number is 325%. And that's during a pandemic, right? So we streamlined our process. We simplified it. We made it a unified system throughout. And those efforts have paid off. So I think we have the momentum going. If we continue to innovate and if we continue to think big, like I'm in our it's called the 360 demo lab. It's our lab, but I want this environment to be Disney Lab. I want it to be a place that's magical. I want it to be the place where you come and you never want to leave. You just want to keep exploring. So immersive experiences, theater, innovation rooms, like let's bring the future a little bit closer to reality through theater or through AR, IA, whatever it is. Like that is my future. And I think it's doable in 2 years' time. But the other thing that's a really strong initiative of our program is automate and integrate. So while we have that Salesforce.com integration, we also have integrated into Tableau some of our other programs, Marketo. there are drip campaigns. There are things that can be done to collect more data or to do more with the data that we have accessible to us. So as we continue to challenge what's possible, I just think that being data driven is going to take us in a direction that will continue to give us, are we headed in the right direction? Are we missing something? What do we need next? And I see myself staying active in ABPM because that's where I learn. That is such a great community for sharing and fostering future, briefing successes. I would love to continue doing things like this. I would love to get a mentor, be a mentor, just foster whatever resources and networks we have available to us to reach world-class briefing status for not only my program, but for everybody else that is striving for that.
Junko, thank you. It reminds me that just because we can do something doesn't mean that we necessarily need to do it. We need to look at the business case. We need to look at the impact on our customers and prospects. And in order to be able to do that in line, we need to be developing ourselves. So I join you in a big shout out to Nexus for providing UPLEVEL. Allie, thank you, and the whole team there. I'm going to turn it back to you. We really appreciate you.
All right, thank you. This being my first webinar with UPLEVEL, I must say that I've definitely learned some things from all of you and all of your programs. So I appreciate that. I did just want to say thank you to Ellen from EDP Consulting for being our first co-host. Your expansive knowledge truly shows, and I am learning from you, and I appreciate that. And also, I would like to thank all of the panelists, Kevin, Jason, and Junko. Thank you very much for spending time with us today. I'm sure you guys are all very busy, but letting us learn from your experiences. I know I did. I hope everybody else did as well. And I also just wanted to thank everybody who joined on this call. We did record this session, so we will be sending out the recording in case any of you would like to revisit it. And if you do have any additional questions about any of the topics we discussed, please feel free to email us. We would love to answer any questions. And I did want to let everybody know that we will be having future discussions over the next few months. So please stay tuned. We'll be posting on our social media, our LinkedIn pages, our website, and we'll also be sending emails. So you guys can stay up to date with what we'll be sharing. So again, thank you guys all for joining, and we hope to see you during our next webinar in July.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.